Chosen one, power is often mistaken for noise. But this month your authority travels at the speed of breath. Before your hand finds the handle, the room has already begun to reorganize itself. Conversations that were sprinting toward cleverness remember their legs and begin to walk. Laughter that was performing for attention finds a truer pitch. Even the light seems to stop competing with itself and simply does its oldest job, illumination. Your entrance does not announce itself like a trumpet. It settles like gravity. Those who are tuned to chaos feel a sudden, inexplicable relief. Those who are tuned to posturing sense immediately that their costumes are heavy for no reason here. What arrives with you is not spectacle, it is order, and order, when it is clean, is mercy. Your sexual energy is the hidden engine of that order. It does not prowl, it provides. It does not lunge, it locates. It does not ask the room to bend around its hunger. It arranges the room so every person has space to stand at their rightful height. This is why the air changes when you cross a threshold. The body recognizes climates faster than the mind can caption them. Women feel their nervous systems shift from vigilance to vividness without needing to calculate exits. Men feel their shoulders recall their proper work, carrying tools instead of broadcasting tension. You are not performing dominance, you are releasing permission. Your presence says without a word that urgency will not be allowed to impersonate importance, that truth will be allowed to arrive at a walk, that dignity is the dress code and everyone already owns it. There is craft in the way you carry this quiet. Your posture does not campaign for attention, it keeps its promises. A spine that agrees with itself, shoulders that open like honest doors, steps that land as if the floor could trust you back. These are not theatrics. They are signs posted in a language older than speech. The room reads them instantly. The one who usually hoards the last word realizes they can leave a clean silence and still exist. The one who hides in the corner because conversation has been a battlefield senses, perhaps for the first time this week, that neutrality here is not abandonment. It is a kind of sanctuary. The fabric of the hour tightens by half a degree, not into stiffness but into shape. You do not rescue rooms by imposing pace, you model it. The breath you take before you speak is a metronome everyone forgot they could follow. In that single beat, confessions choose honesty over drama. Anger tides a few decibels and buys a few facts. Humor, which had sharpened itself into a blade, rounds out and remembers that its vocation is relief, not injury. Your pause is not a tactic, it is evidence that your power is not rented from adrenaline. Power borrowed from panic demands repayment in chaos. Power drawn from presence repays itself by leaving people more themselves than it found them. Your eyes do their work without becoming weapons. They do not strip, they return. They are instruments calibrated for accuracy rather than appetite. Under that calibration, faces unclench by increments. A guarded jaw loosens, a rehearsed angle relaxes into a real expression, a story drops 3 unneeded flourishes and lands truer because it no longer has to audition. This is the quiet power that enters before you, attention that does not invoice, warmth that does not conscript, regard that does not require anyone to become smaller in order for you to feel large. The room does not rally around you as a spectacle. It steadies around you as a standard. Your heat is not a secret. It is simply well governed. Governance shows up as timing. You begin when you said you would, not because punctuality is a fetish, but because you honored the hours that led here. You end while kindness still has breath, not because you fear missing out, but because you love tomorrow enough not to steal from it. Between beginning and ending, you let sequence defeat speed. Name what matters. Decide without theater. Repair while the bruise is pale. Bless what remains good. This sequence is the arithmetic of your authority. People who have been taught by 1,000 small panics to equate volume with truth discover in your company that truth prefers human temperature. Even matter responds. Glassware lands without complaint. Doors close as if the house had nerves. Chairs return to their places as though courtesy were a magnet. These details do not make you a magician. They make you a man whose hands have taught the room its manners. You set things down softly because you are not at war with the world. You pass a plate as if ceramic has a memory because you refuse to practice violence where tenderness would do. The room learns this without a lecture. Weeks later, in your absence, someone will set a cup down as if the table could feel. They will not know where they learned it. They learned it from the weather you brought. Provocation tries to make a stage of you. It arrives wearing the uniform of urgency and invites you to confuse reaction with leadership. Your quiet power declines the audition. You lower your voice until spectacle cannot breathe. You narrow the problem until hands can touch it. You refuse to join any conflict that pays out in attention rather than outcomes. Rage, deprived of its audience, becomes information. Information, placed on a table, becomes solvable. The room exhale that follows is not dramatic, it is decisive. This is what alpha means when it has learned to be human. First to govern self, first to steady the ship, first to end a moment in time for tomorrow to remain whole. You leave without vanishing, and your exit is part of your authority. You do not wring the last laugh from a night that has already given enough. You do not take a victory lap through a conversation that has landed well. You bless the hour with a soft latch. You offer the one precise word that preserves what happened rather than inflating it, and you go. Morning arrives uninjured because you refuse to mortgage it for applause. People wait kinder and cannot quite name why. The reason is unglamorous. A man with quiet power protected the ending. Protection is remembered longer than performance. Keep the ordinary vows that make this extraordinary possible. Water before opinion so patience stays solvent. Breath before reply so tone remains human. Movement before mood so feeling keeps traveling instead of becoming a tyrant. Rest before rescue so help is not vanity. Prayer before performance so appetite remembers it is a servant, not a king. These are chores, not slogans. And chores are what keep kingdoms alive. Your power is not the thunder people hear when you speak. It is the weather they live in after you've gone. Chosen one, gravity is the kind of authority that does not negotiate. It does not shout, it shapes. It does not plead, it places. This month, your masculine gravity is the unspoken architecture by which rooms remember what they are. Before anyone votes, decisions begin to behave. Before anyone defines it, composure becomes contagious. The restless still themselves without feeling suppressed. The timid find their sentence without feeling exposed. Men square their shoulders, not to become larger, but to carry more. Women breathe lower into their bodies, not to perform softness, but to enjoy safety. You have not built a throne, you have installed a center. Gravity begins in your agreement with yourself. Your convictions do not require ceremony to exist. They are not props you hoist for effect. They are load-bearing beams that have been inspected in private. This is why your presence causes posturing to look suddenly childish and control to look suddenly exhausting. You are not auditioning for authority, you are hosting it. Hosting looks like steadiness under pressure, direction without aggression, warmth that does not leak into need. The room feels the difference immediately. In the economy of your gravity, attention is not the currency. Outcomes are. Spectacle goes broke quickly here. Substance thrives. Your sexual energy has learned the mathematics of orbit. The closer someone comes, the clearer the laws. Consent is the language, timing is the tempo, dignity is non-negotiable, and admiration never disguises obligation. Gravity that is honest does not trap, it carries. This is why proximity to you makes people more themselves, rather than more performative. A woman does not feel hunted, she feels seen and left whole. A man does not feel threatened, he feels calibrated and called upward. You have become the rare field in which opposites harmonize without either being diminished. This is masculinity that commands not by consuming, but by keeping. Your voice is an instrument of this gravity. It does not rise to compete with panic. It descends until panic cannot find oxygen. You speak in sentences that fit the size of the moment. When correction is needed, you name behavior without renaming the person. When decision is needed, you choose without rehearsing a myth of infallibility. When silence is needed, you give the moment an extra heartbeat in which truth can finish arriving. The room stops trying to win and starts trying to work. Work under gravity becomes honorable again. You do not purchase respect with volume, you earn it with proportion. Even conflict becomes obedient in your field. Drama enters dressed like royalty and expects a parade. You redirect it to the workbench. This happened, this stops, this is repaired, this remains good. The 4 sentences are a map by which pride can find the shortest route back to usefulness. Your gravity refuses the false currencies of humiliation and spectacle. It insists on the practical riches of repair and continuity. People who expected a war discover a workshop. They leave with something fixed instead of a story to perform. That is why they return to your orbit voluntarily. Gravity that builds is a kind of home. Objects disclose the truth first. The door closes softly behind you as if the building had nerves. The glass accepts the table without complaint. The chair returns to its place because your hands have taught it what care feels like. These are small phenomena until you realize they are the forensic evidence of a man whose attention refuses violence. In such weather, people copy the manners of matter. They put their words down softly. They return their egos to their places. They close the evening before sweetness is exhausted. The soul rests not because the world has grown easier, but because a standard made rest affordable again. Your humor obeys gravity too. It does not ascend on the back of someone else's face. It travels toward the knot in a moment and loosens it, one notch and then another, until breathing returns. Laughter under your care does not win, it frees. It does not sharpen, it softens. It does not crown the clever, it oxygenates the kind. People leave lighter in ways they can use. They spend that lightness on patience with their children, on precision with their colleagues, on mercy with themselves. They will not attribute the surplus to you, and that is correct. Gravity is the force we use without naming it every time. Credit flows differently because of you. You speak names while there is still music. You place recognition where labor lived. You do not hoard applause like oxygen or outsource blame like smoke. Rooms governed by gravity become fair without becoming fragile. The one who was always invisible becomes visible without debt. The one who was always loud becomes precise without shame. The culture thickens into reliability. Reliability is the signature that respect signs when it has decided to stay. Your boundaries are how gravity expresses love. A yes from you arrives paid in advance, no interest, no hidden language. A no arrives like a fence that can be seen at noon, clear, honest, with a gate you may one day open if the season changes. Neither is a performance. Both are design. People leave your limits intact because your limits left them intact. In a world that confuses hardness with strength, you practice the kind of firmness that protects rather than punishes. Doors that can close softly are doors that can be trusted to open again. Temptation will occasionally dress itself as leadership and try to lure you back into theater. Louder, faster, bigger. Your gravity is proof against this because you married yourself to practices, not to applause. Water before opinion, so patience has something to burn. Breath before reply, so tone stays human when truth must be carried. Movement before mood, so feeling keeps traveling and never becomes a tyrant. Rest before rescue, so help is not vanity. Prayer before performance, so appetite remembers it is a servant. These unseen fidelities are the mass by which gravity is measured. No one claps for them. Everyone benefits. And when you leave, the test is simple. Does the room continue to behave like a place instead of a stage? Do voices stay at human volume? Do decisions remain precise? Do jokes refuse to invoice a face? Does a no keep its beauty and a yes arrive paid? If the answer is yes, your gravity has done its work. Respect lingers not as a story about you, but as a set of customs that make life more livable for those who were there. That is the highest proof of masculine authority. Not that your name is remembered loudly, but that your way is remembered easily. You did not bend the room to your will, you returned it to its best self, and everyone felt taller without needing to stand on anyone else. Chosen one, there is a point at which a man stops chasing introductions and starts keeping promises. That is where you live now. Rooms try to name you with the language they understand, boss, chief, head, captain, but the words slide off because your authority does not come from the sign on a door. It comes from the way you carry outcomes through noise without losing their shape. You walk in, and hierarchies reorganize themselves without a memo. People who have been waiting for permission discover they were really waiting, for example. Those who mistake volume for value begin, against their habit, to listen. The pace adjusts, the air learns manners. You stand still, and the evening finds its center. You lead through alignment, not announcement. Your map is inside you, and it doesn't argue. It has been drafted in quiet places where no audience clapped. A Early mornings when you watered your body before your opinions, long afternoons when you moved so your moods would keep moving too. Nights closed while kindness still had breath, so tomorrow would arrive uninjured. This housekeeping of the soul is not glamorous, but it makes you trustworthy in a way no title can counterfeit. People sense it in their bones before their minds can explain it. They feel that you will not spend their attention on your panic, that you will not mortgage their time to pay the interest on your ego. They relax into usefulness, which is the shortest road to respect. Your sexual energy is the current beneath this leadership, and it has learned the craft of hospitality. You do not flood the room to prove you are powerful. You furnish the room so that power can work. Consent is legible. Boundaries are beautiful architecture, not barricades. Admiration is clean, without an invoice hidden in the fine print. The feminine reads this weather instantly. Her nervous system stands down from vigilance, and her brilliance arrives without rehearsing for safety. The masculine reads it as a summons. Shoulders trained to broadcast begin to carry, and competence replaces performance. You have not conquered anyone. You have made it easy for people to be brave. Your speech has become a tool, not a trophy. You do not lecture. You locate. You let a problem land on the table where hands can touch it, and you name it with sentences the size of the break. Here's what happened. Here's what matters. Here's what stops. Here's what stays good. Drama, deprived of audience, loses altitude. Repair, finally given the microphone, speaks softly and wins. You do not need to be right at high volume. You need to be exact at human temperature. Precision does not humiliate, it liberates, because it tells everyone where to place their effort. This is why decisions you carry survive the morning after. The temperature stayed human, while the truth stayed whole. You distribute credit like rain and blame like responsibility. Praise lands while there is still music, not afterward when the floor is sticky and the lights are cruel. You name the hidden hands that made the visible moment possible. You do not hoard applause as oxygen or outsource error as smoke. You let critique sharpen craft without renegotiating worth. In your economy, people do better work because they are not busy laundering their dignity. The room grows honest the way a forest grows after a good fire. Clear understory, strong trunks, light reaching places that used to be starved. Your leadership is felt most in timing. You begin when you said, because you honored the hours that led there. You end before goodness is exhausted, because you refuse to steal from tomorrow to fund tonight's vanity. Between those bookends, you leave space for truth to arrive at a walk. You allow one breath between their last word and your first. And in that breath, confessions choose honesty over theater, tempers trade volume for facts, humor remembers its job as relief, not injury. This timing is not technique. It is reverence for the process by which people become more exact and more kind. You do not recruit spectators for your conflicts. You invite adults to a table and keep the exits called winning and sulking unromantic. You decline gossip's tax on absent reputations and return the conversation to what can be built. You refuse the counterfeit urgency that screams at 2 in the afternoon and is forgotten by 5. Your calm makes manipulation too expensive to purchase. Those who once relied on spectacle to move the hour discover, reluctantly at first and then with gratitude, that accuracy travels farther than drama on less fuel. The way you handle endings is a masterclass that few notice and everyone benefits from. You are unafraid to be the one who stands, says a good word, and closes the door softly, as if the house had nerves. You leave before sweetness collapses into residue. Because you do, mornings in your orbit arrive with fewer refunds to issue to the soul. The day starts closer to the truth. Choices at breakfast do not require emergency speeches at noon. No one places a laurel on your head for this. They simply live better, and that is proof enough that leadership happened. Your body tells the truth, your mouth doesn't have to repeat. You set a glass down as if the table could feel. You pass a plate as if ceramic has a memory. You angle your stance so crowded paths widen. You keep your hands faithful to tone before touch. Matter learns from you. Doors close without complaint. Chairs return to place. The room becomes safe for nuance because you have refused violence, even in small mechanics. People copy what matter remembers. Weeks later, in a space you are not in, Someone will set a cup down softly and never know they learned it from the weather you brought. And because your authority is rooted in service, you think about succession. Not a speech, but a standard others can keep when you are gone. You show your work as you go. Why this order? Why this boundary smiling? Why this apology while the bruise is pale? Why this ending while tenderness still has breath? You let people watch you choose proportion over theater. They begin to do it without you, which is the only test that matters. Titles can be inherited. Standards must be earned. You are earning one simple enough to travel and strong enough to hold. This month, leadership wears your face without needing your name. It is recognized by the climate left in your wake. Clean boundaries that do not punish, credit that travels to the right hands while there is still music, decisions that survive the morning, evenings that end before memory breaks, laughter that loosens knots without costing a face, desire that hosts rather than hunts. No plaque can contain that. No banner can sell it. It is the quiet, durable authority of a man who built himself where no one clapped and now carries rooms back to themselves without asking for anything but the chance to keep them whole. Chosen one, the old story taught that mastery required an opponent. It armed boys with rage and called them men once they learned to swing it. You have grown past that curriculum. The battlefield now is smaller and nearer. Your breath, your appetite, your timing, your tongue. You discovered that the war outside was mostly a loud translation of the war within, and you chose a different strategy. Govern the country of yourself so thoroughly that provocation cannot conscript you, that flattery cannot bribe you, that fear cannot appoint itself commander. The world calls this restraint. The people who live near you call it safety. Your body calls it peace. You are not unarmed, you are sheathed. The edge remains. It is simply under orders that serve something larger than the thrill of dominance. When conflict knocks, you do not answer with performance. You open a room with a table, not a stage. You strip the quarrel of its audience and refuse to pay attention as the currency of chaos. You name behavior without downgrading identity. You say what ends and what begins. You lay out the repair while the bruise is still pale. You let dignity be the non-negotiable condition under which truth is permitted to work. Fury, deprived of glamour, changes into information. Information given a job becomes solvable. That is not softness. That is sovereignty. Your sexual energy has become evidence of this sovereignty. It is the fire that learned its own house. It does not lunge to prove it is alive. It holds like the sea holds, definite, deep, able to carry what is worthy without drowning it. Women sense instantly that your heat does not invoice their radiance. Their bodies stop bracing for the bill. They expand into color and clarity because you will not requisition them to decorate your myth. Men sense that your voltage will not be sold cheaply for applause. Their shoulders lower, their usefulness rises. In a climate like this, the predator finds no purchase, and the coward finds no audience. You have made the room unprofitable for both. Provocation studies you and finds no handle. Anger yawns at your calm and tries to drag you into its theater. You refuse to audition. You do not confuse adrenaline with authority. You do not let hurry disguise itself as importance. You lower your voice until spectacle cannot breathe. You narrow the issue until hands can touch it. You protect the absent from being redesigned by gossip. You protect the present from being injured by your superiority. You let silence carry weight for one beat longer than is comfortable, because in that beat, people remember that truth is cheaper than performance. It is impossible to manipulate a man who knows how to remain. Your training is mundane and relentless. You drink water before opinion, so patience has something to burn. You breathe twice before reply, so tone remains human when truth is hard. You move your body so emotion stays in motion and does not become a manager. You sleep to keep your edge from turning into a blade. You keep prayer plain so appetite remembers it is a servant, not a king. You apologize quickly to keep pride from hiring a publicist. None of this trends, all of it works. The warrior without enemies is not unchallenged, he is unconflicted. He has chosen the long, boring miracle of fidelity over the short, exciting disaster of rage. You understand the geometry of boundaries. A good fence is not a fortress, it is a design that keeps love breathable. Your no arrives visible, honest, with a gate and a sign. It does not humiliate. Your yes arrives paid in advance, without a debt hidden inside. The result is paradoxical and powerful. People walk away from your limits with more dignity than they carried in. The chronic tester stops testing because there is nothing to win in a house that refuses tug-of-war with its own beams. The chronic accommodator learns to keep shape because your respect for your own edges teaches them how to respect theirs. Your humor fights too, against the kind of heaviness that makes cruelty feel like relief. You never purchase laughter with a person's face. You aim it at the knot in the moment and loosen it one notch, then another, until breath returns. Under this discipline, spirits lift without anyone being made small to pay for the lift. The woman who was bracing for ridicule laughs from her belly and remains whole. The man who was hiding behind sarcasm steps out and tries precision. Everyone becomes stronger because no one was harmed. Mercy under control is the sharpest weapon you carry. You practice ending as a form of protection. You leave while tenderness still has breath. You close the door softly, as if the house had nerves. You send the one sentence that blesses what happened instead of stretching it into legend. Nights remain whole, and so do people. Morning begins closer to the truth. Decisions at breakfast do not require emergency negotiations at noon. You did not win a battle. You prevented a war, inside the chest first and then in the room. Prevention rarely earns applause. It earns the quieter treasure of lives that do not need to heal from you. There are times when a line must be drawn in ink that will not smudge. You do not tremble then. You say, that ends here. And it does, not because you glittered or snarled, but because your consistency has given the words weight. You do not punish, you protect. You do not make a museum of the offender. You secure the conditions for the rest to remain human. Later, when tempers have cooled and facts have regained their confidence, even those you opposed will respect how you did it. They will say, if they are honest, that you left them a path back. That path is the difference between victory and rule. You choose rule over yourself first, which is why you rarely have to rule over anyone else. You prefer repair to revenge because repair lasts. When you miss, and you do because you remain human, you mend immediately, precisely, without parading your contrition for sympathy. I did this, it caused that, here is how I will make it right. Then you make it right. You do not extract forgiveness as proof of progress. You even out the floorboards so feet can trust them again. People who watch you become less theatrical with their own mistakes. Teams with you in them start fixing things sooner. Relationships near you spend less time in triage. The whole ecosystem thickens into reliability. And reliability is what the heart means when it whispers safe. Your body language carries all this doctrine without needing to say it twice. You enter as if walls deserve respect, and exit as if thresholds remember you. You angle your stance so others have room to pass. You take the heavier box and the shorter speech. You choose the seat from which you can see the door, not to dominate, but to steward. You set the cup down softly, and someone weeks later sets theirs down softly, never suspecting the lineage of that small mercy. This is how warriors without enemies win territory that maps cannot show. Habits, customs, temperatures, the feel of a place before anyone speaks. And when the old story returns with its costume box, banners, noise, triumphs shaped like bruises, you smile and keep to your work. You know that the point was never to be unchallenged. It was to be uncorrupted. You know that the fiercest force is a man who will not betray tomorrow for the thrill of tonight. You know that a room that behaves like a place instead of a stage is a victory greater than applause. You know that a woman who leaves with more of herself than she arrived with is the only trophy worth remembering. You know that a boy who watches you and learns to set his cup down softly is a future you will never see and the only kingdom you need. So you remain. You remain when others rush. You remain when others posture. You remain when others solicit the crowd to crown them. You remain inside your pace, your practice, your plain vows kept without witnesses. And because you remain, storms grow tired of trying to move you and begin at last to move around you. In their wake, the path is clear, the air is cleaner, the work is possible, and what needed to grow can finally grow. That is how a warrior without enemies changes a world, by refusing to make one. Chosen one, altitude is not just height, it is health. You have been climbing, not by stepping on anyone, but by refusing to let anyone step on your peace. Higher, for you, does not mean farther from people. It means closer to God in a way that makes you safer for people. The air is thinner up here, but it is cleaner. Drama wheezes. Revenge gets dizzy. Bitterness finds it cannot carry its own weight and must sit down while gratitude keeps walking. You learned early that bitterness wants to be your traveling companion. It offers stamina in the dark, stories that keep you awake, reasons to never risk kindness again. But bitterness charges interest. It taxes the morning. It fogs the view. You chose a different fuel. Remembrance without reenactment, lament without residency, justice without venom, boundaries without a ledger of debts written on your bones. You did not deny the injury, you denied it jurisdiction over your next step.